Hi, welcome to Aging Smart. I'm Sean Scott, and we're going to talk about some pretty cool things today. Hey, you're getting a little bit older now, and you're looking at your retirement. You're getting into that retirement age. Maybe you just retired. Well, things are changing, aren't they? So what's next? And so we're going to talk about what's next financially, and maybe some of the things that you should be thinking about regarding your investing. So I have a very special guest with me today. I have Amy. How are you?
I'm great. Thank
Very
you for
good.
having me.
Amy is a fabulous financial advisor. She's been working with me for years, just absolutely wonderful. And she's and I are going to talk to you guys a little bit about what's next. Okay, now I'm 65 or I'm 70, whenever I've decided I'm not going to work anymore, and now I'm going to live the golden life, right? Well, how am I going to pay for that? And how do I invest? So what's some of the things that, what should we be thinking about when those changes happen?
Yeah, no, those are great questions and one that we come across pretty much every day in my firm. I think one of the most important things to do is to not wait until we're 65 to start that plan, right? A lot of people decide they're going to pull the plug. They knock on my door.
Pull the plug? That means something different to me typically. So you mean they're going to retire?
Of course, yeah.
Not from life permanently.
No,
right? Okay.
not yet. No.
Okay.
No.
So yeah, they're going to transition, right, from working to now no longer working.
Right.
So what should they beforehand? Can I do it afterwards? What?
Well, so if I have things in a perfect world,
right,
we're talking planning at least 5 years out, right?
Okay, good.
But even if somebody comes to my door at age 65 and they say, hey, we're ready to go,
right,
then there's a lot of thought and planning that needs to happen just to say, hey, what does that next phase look like?
Sure.
Right, because honestly, I've had clients who are able to retire on very little and they have very frugal lives. They want to keep things simple.
Right.
Their planning will be very easy, right? But then you have some clients who want to travel or they want to fulfill some obligations that they've had for charity or other things that have been on their mind. And so the first question you really have to ask is, well, what does retirement look like?
Right, sure, yeah. For you individually, I mean, are you going to be traveling around the world? Are you going to be hopping into an RV? Are you going to start farming or whatever?
Exactly.
Are you going to write a book finally? Or
yeah.
Right? So what does it look like to you individually as to how much are you going to need to live on?
Right.
That's kind of what we're looking at, kind of a metric some way?
Exactly, yeah. So, ideally, none of us know exactly what life's going to bring, right? But in a perfect world, we at least want to have that flight plan, right? So the winds may knock us back and forth. Certain things may come up that'll knock us off of that track.
Exactly.
Yes,
sure.
Of course. But we have to start somewhere. We have to have a plan, right? And then it's a matter of just figuring out how do the resources that we have and how do the portfolios and money that we have get us through that entire lifespan. I think a lot of people think of retirement as one long vacation, which is true to an extent, right? Maybe the first 3 months, 6 months, couple of years, we're out hitting the golf course and hanging out with our friends, doing all of those things. But then we have to start planning for what happens after that.
So when we talk about what happens after that, and I think it brings up kind of an interesting thought in my brain. When I think about retiring, I'm going to retire when I'm 65, which is probably not likely. I'm probably going to die at my desk at age 85. But there's other people that 65, it's time for me to retire. Is our event horizon 5, 10, 15 years out? I mean, how if we're planning for our retirement, how far down the road do we have to plan?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not just like next week or next month or next year, is it?
It's not, and that's actually one of the bigger misconceptions is everybody hears that the average lifespan is around 76 or 78 years old. But what they don't know is that once you hit 65, you actually have, if you're a woman, a 50% chance of living over 90.
Wow.
And for men, it's a third. So
you said 76, right?
Yes.
So my brother just turned 76 yesterday, so happy birthday, bro. And by the way, good on you for making it so far. So sorry, I did a little shout out to the bro.
No, of course. So, in a lot of cases, we could be looking at 20 or 30 years.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, exactly.
So almost like your work life in a sense, right? I mean, the 30 years that you've been working or so, now we're mapping another 30 out?
Yeah, I honestly
Oh my God, that's a little frightening.
It can be if you don't plan well, but
Sure.
But honestly, for most clients, unless they tell us that there are circumstances that might say otherwise, we're actually planning all of our plans to 95.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, that's very insightful. Yeah, I did not have that in my brain at all, as far as, because sometimes I'm not always the best planner myself. Like, I'm really good for planning for my clients, really good for taking and solving your problems,
Yes.
but kind of like that shoemaker sometimes, and don't make any shoes for my own family. So yeah, don't do what I do, by the way.
Yes.
Be a better planner.
Well,
So,
that's why I'm in business.
absolutely. And that's the thing with me and some of the, well, Sean, why haven't you done a lot of good planning? Let's hypothetically say that I do that, and I have not done a lot of good planning. And I think in my world, why that would be is there's some fear associated with it in my world. I don't know. That's not my jam.
Right.
That's not what I do. I'm really good at what I do, but I'm not good at trying to figure out how my investment planning, what are my event horizons, how long I'm going to do it, what am I going to invest in, how am I going to invest? It's just a mystery to me. And
Yeah.
I think in my world, sometimes when I have that kind of big mystery, I tend not to take action.
Yes.
So
Actually.
how can we encourage people to take action and not just sit on your hands? Any thoughts on that?
Well, that's actually really perfect. So this week on my blog, we posted about exactly that.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Well, good. Excellent.
Yes.
Tell me more then.
Yeah. So the problem is lack of clarity is a big reason why people don't plan, right? Because it can be really overwhelming to talk about money just in general.
Sure,
When
yeah.
I think about my job, probably half of what we do is numbers and half of it is psychology and behavior.
Sure.
And so a lot of times when we already have a very fraught topic, it's very emotional, then trying to even think about what a plan might look like can be just really overwhelming. So, a lot of what we do is, first, before we even start talking about numbers, just get some clarity on what's important to us, what do I want to achieve with the rest of the time that I have here, and what's really important to me, because everything we're doing in the planning and in the portfolios should really reflect the life that we want to live, right? And so, that helps to take down some of that overwhelm. And we actually have a former therapist who works with our clients to help them figure all these things out.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
An investment therapist.
Yeah.
See, that's a new concept.
Yeah.
I never knew about that.
Yeah.
An investment therapist.
Well,
That's great.
I realized very early on that
I think I might need, can I get that person's number?
Absolutely.
Okay.
He actually works as part of our
Excellent.
firm. So I learned very early on that I can be great with the numbers, but showing somebody a plan that they won't execute really only gets us so far. So a lot of times when we find that people aren't necessarily sticking to a plan, or they're having a hard time just having the clarity that they need, it's because they're just not completely clear or honest with themselves about what their values are and what they really want to do with themselves.
Gotcha. So let's play a little game. I mean,
Sure.
Let's assume that I'm 60 years old, okay? And I am now finally realizing that maybe I should do something, because I don't always want to go to the office every day for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And the word retirement has been coming across my feed on my phone and my news, and I don't know why they know this, but apparently they know I'm 60. And after our little discussion today, I'm feeling a little bit more inspired to maybe take some action instead of ignoring the problem, because apparently it's not going to go away, right? So let's use me as an example, Amy. I'm like, okay, I'm a little scared about this, but Amy, I think that you are opening up some doors in my brain here. What do we do first? What do you and I? I'm your guy. I'm your person, right? So what do I do?
Yeah.
What do you need from me? What's my next step? What do I do? So can you walk me through that?
Sure.
Because I'm going to be calling you after our interview today, because we may need to do this.
Yeah. So, hey, if I get 5 years before somebody's really, truly thinking about the retirement, the first thing I want to say is, hey, what does your life look like today? Okay. And start to think about, for instance, if we have a client, for example, who's been going 100 miles an hour.
Sure.
When they hit the brakes and go to zero, it's going to be very jarring. And, in fact, we see
in other words, you've been going to work, you've been doing all these things, juggling all this stuff in your life, bang, 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 all actualized, solving. I know that guy.
Yeah.
And then bang, you stop.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
My stomach got a little twisty. I can't even imagine doing that, but because that's scary to me.
It is, and actually we see anxiety and depression and isolation.
Yeah, exactly.
Take up a lot.
I'm pre-anxiety right now. I'm shaking a little bit.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Yeah, so from
Just thinking about it.
Yeah.
All right, so walk me through. Go
Sure.
ahead, I'm sorry.
No, so a lot of what I'm going to look at is what are we doing currently in our lives that provide us with intellectual stimulation, social contacts and connection. What are we doing that might be physically right in our day-to-day routine?
Right.
And so when I look at that, then we almost need to have a plan to find some way to replicate or replace all of that, because one of the things I think that can be most exciting for people is when they retire, especially if they were used to being known a certain way.
Right, sure.
They realize all that vanishes, right?
Yeah.
The guy who used to be the lawyer is
I
now...
used to be somebody.
Right,
Yeah.
just Sean, right?
Not even that anymore. I mean,
Yeah.
Hey, can I get an extra senior discount on that McDonald's coffee, please?
Yeah.
For Sean.
Yeah. So 5 years out, I want to start doing a phased approach, right? How can we start thinking about some of the things that, for instance, intellectually we found stimulating?
Sure.
And then work away so that by the time we hit retirement, you have something to replace that.
Now, I don't have to have this specific absolute plan, do I? Can I just kind of come up with some broad concepts? Like, I want to kind of give back into the community a little bit, work on that side of things. Definitely want to continue my traveling side of things, maybe focus on some more writing and get my first or third or fourth novel out there. Can we just do broad sweep, or do we have to be more specific? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think a lot of people have an idea of, say, serving a certain charity when they retire. And if they've never been involved with that charity before,
there's your lead in.
They might find out once they actually try to do that on a broader basis that it's not what they expected or it's not what they were looking for. So,
So I'm hearing transition.
Yes.
I'm hearing from 100 to 0, maybe we have something layering in before you get to that point. Some of these interests, maybe this, I'll give back. Okay, good.
Yeah.
All right, excellent. All right, so I'm going to tell you my little story, and this is, we're going to have this, and then you're going to say to me, okay, Sean, what's next?
Yeah.
And what am I going to do? I mean, we're going to review what I have invested now. Are we going to make changes to that? I mean, should I make changes to that? What about, my risk tolerances? Maybe, are we just going to go crazy and get them really wild investments, or can we talk a little bit? Or are we going to be super conservative and lock everything down? I mean, I bet you there's probably pros and cons of both of those directions.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And part of that planning process is really important because I need to know what your assets need to do to achieve that. Right. So some people can afford to be more conservative and maybe live off of what they already have because they don't plan for any big extravagant expenses in retirement. But for some people, we're going to need to look at that a little bit closer, because the instinct for a lot of people is once they hit 65, they say, hey, I'm retiring tomorrow. That's it. I need to get really conservative. And that's actually one of the biggest mistakes that I see people make.
Oh, yeah. That's interesting. It's almost counterintuitive. So now I'm older and I'm retiring. Me, we're back to me, and we've set my date 5 years from now. And we're talking about transitioning and how I'm going to do that, kind of where we want to be, looking at what my kind of needs are going to be. And then I have X amount of dollars. Right? And I'm a real conservative guy. My favorite investment is cash. Okay.
Okay, yeah.
I know you're laughing because you see where I'm going with
of
this.
Course.
Okay.
Yeah.
But that's just what I know, and it's safe, and I don't have to, I'm not going to lose anything, am I? And that's a setup.
Yeah.
So talk to me about being too conservative and why that might not be in your best interest.
Yeah, and actually I hear that all of the time. So, we joke, but it's actually a common view that people take once they hit retirement.
Right.
And the thing about investing and about money in general is you have to really understand that you're always taking a risk.
Correct.
Because, when we talk about risk tolerance, what does that mean exactly, and what does it mean to you? Because if I look at a portfolio that is all invested in cash, well, is the risk that we run out of money at age 80 acceptable, or that we're going to have to cut our spending in half in order to make that work?
And then, you and I have talked about this before, but let's kind of drill down a little bit more on this running out of money at 80 because I was conservative in my investments. It's almost counterintuitive. Well, I'm going to hold the stuff really tight. I'm not going to have a lot of risk that's out there. And I guess maybe I'm good for this year, maybe a couple 5 years out. But why is that ultimately hurting me?
Yeah.
If we look at a little bit deeper event horizon, like 20 years from, and since you said I'm going to be around at least 30 after I retire, thank you for that, by the way. I'm going to hold you to it. So yeah, tell me more about why this conservative thing is really going to potentially hurt.
Yeah, well, I like to call a cash investment plan or a very conservative plan as a plan to go broke slowly. And what I mean by that is, if inflation averages 3, 4, maybe even 5% per year, what you're going to see is an account that doesn't move much in value,
Right.
but is actually eroding the purchasing power over time. And so your plan might work right now, but Social Security also doesn't keep up with inflation very well. So if your own assets don't make up for that, what we can often see is that people find themselves in a pinch once they get 15 or 20 years in, and now we have to figure about how to cut expenses or how to make this budget work, because we've lost, you can lose almost up to half of your purchasing power over a 20-year period.
And that's an inflationary issue? Yeah, just in the effect
just from inflation.
So
so not even making a mistake.
So let's, again, I'm just trying, I sometimes get hyper simple on some topics. So let's say we have a 4% inflation type of a situation, but my portfolio is only making 3%. Is that what we're talking about? That kind of math? I mean, keep it simple for the lawyer.
Yes, exactly. That's a perfect example, right? Because inflation is a little more invisible, right? So, I mean, sure, we feel it when we go to the grocery store, when we see it in little things here and there. But yeah, if we have a portfolio that's only earning 3%, and inflation is above that, then our value is eroding.
So we're losing money.
Yes, exactly.
You're literally losing money just by math.
Yeah.
Okay, got that. Yeah, that's something I don't think we really, at least I don't really think of it in that context, because I am pretty conservative in my investing, and I get the concept I got to keep up with at least inflation, otherwise I'm going backwards. For sure. But now I'm going backwards. My pool, if I'm not working and pushing more money into the system, I'm dealing with a finite resource, and I'm eating away at that finite resource. That's getting smaller. Its ability to create wealth for me is getting smaller over time. Oh,
sure.
Can we not talk about this? You're making me nervous.
Well, and listen, so then what is the other side of it, right? Because people will hear, yeah, but I can't handle a big hit in my portfolio now. And that's the other fear that we work on that can be the other side of this. And I think a little perspective helps here, because for a lot of people, they just don't really understand the history of the markets or what they're owning necessarily well. And so, it's not that we have to have a portfolio of 100% stocks, and I certainly wouldn't recommend that.
Correct. It's not balanced. You want a little balance, a little.
Yes.
What's the word? Diversification.
Of course,
right? Of course, right.
Yeah, but if we just look at the history of stocks for an example, sorry.
It's okay. Yeah. Tell me about the history of stocks.
Yeah. So if we look at long time frames, right? So in a very short time frame, in 1 year, you can see huge ups and huge downs in a portfolio, right? Just look at what happened during the coronavirus crisis, for example. We saw a portfolio lose, or a 100% stock portfolio lose up to 30% very, very quickly. And so that's terrifying, right? Especially if you've just retired.
I remember that terrifying part. Yeah, it was sobering and very, very, very scary during that period. Yes, I have clear recollection. But we've recovered from this, right? We kind of bounced back from that?
Well, yeah, so that's where the planning really comes in, because we want to watch timing of distributions and timing of cash flows, because time is really our friend in this situation. And what's interesting is if you just look at the stock market, then what you'll see is over longer periods of time, you have over a 90% chance of a stock market being positive if we're talking 10 years or more. If you hit 20 years, just on a historical basis, it's 100%. So the odds are really in your favor that as long as you plan in a way that the assets you're not touching for 5, 10, 20 plus years are still being allowed to keep up with inflation and to outpace that, then the shorter term assets for cash or for bonds can help supplement what you need early on in retirement. So this is how you design a portfolio that really carries you through that whole time.
So be a little chill right? Don't get all freaked out just because coronavirus has taken 30% of your savings, or you're right, but it actually doesn't if you just are a little chill, because over time, there's a very good chance statistically that that will recover.
Yeah, and this is where the behavioral and the psychological coaching can help a lot,
I
because
can see this, yes.
in the moment that will be very hard. In the moment, I hate to say it, but there's always somebody who calls me in those periods and they've panicked, they've made the wrong decision. So, you have to know yourself really well as well,
Okay, sure.
and just, get support if you feel like you can't bear going through that sort of situation.
All right, so that's great. I think what I'm hearing here, and sometimes I tell this to my own clients as well, and they're coming to help, asking me for help in their particular situation. And I always like to say, well, there's a reason why you're here. There's a reason why we are together, because I've done this before. I've solved this problem before. I can guide you through this process and solve it for you as well. But this may be your first time trying to solve this problem.
Yeah.
And so the point is that what I'm taking us to is that I need to make sure that I listen to my own advice, and that, maybe I'm not the guy that's the right person to solve this retirement problem and how I'm going to invest, because sometimes I fall into a rut of I can do anything. I got this.
Yeah.
Right? I think the reality is, no, I don't got this, and maybe I should pivot and look and reach out to somebody that's been there, done this before, has the insight, asks the questions that I don't even have the idea, the information, and help me into the and going forward. So reach out and ask somebody for that help, basically.
Yeah. Well, and the way I frame that is, I've been in the finance industry over 20 years. We've seen thousands of retirements, right? You will only retire once. Right. But we've seen all of the mistakes and pitfalls and all the
Not
things.
Not your first rodeo.
Exactly.
Correct. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So what I want to do, I think we need to get together again and maybe pivot to some other topics and maybe some more specifics. Great introduction, I think, for today. Overall, I like the idea of maybe it's time that you have a talk to yourself and say, maybe I need to take action now. If you're at 5 years ahead of your retirement, that's a really, really good time to take action. There's still time to do things in order to get your kind of world in place and how you will transition. My big takeaway with you today is that if I'm the client, the person thinking about retirement, maybe I shouldn't try to do this on my own. I should reach out to somebody that has been there and done this before, and it's not their first rodeo, somebody like Amy, right? And we'll put Amy's contact information up as well. And I love the name of your firm. So it's AimWell.
Yes.
Amy Powell from AimWell. Thank you very much for coming in today. We're definitely going to hook up and talk again. So
all right, thank you, Sean.
Thank you very much. All right, I'm Sean Scott. This was Aging Smart. As always, I hope to hear and see from you again. We always love your comments, so leave them down there wherever that is in the world. And until next time, have a good day.